Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. Yes, it's one of those intros. Yes, it's a very happy intro because Tottenham won the North London derby. And he did it with quite a lot of comfort and ease in the end. Obviously, helped by the numerical advantage, but it was a night when, there was a big tifo that all the fans held up the cards that said, dare, dream, do. Tottenham did. That's the key part of it. They had to do, and they did. It was a late night at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Antonio Conte afterwards did his normal press conference, and then we had to do the pre-match one for Burnley because it's such a tight turnaround. And normally in the past with Nuno, Jose Mourinho, and even Conte at one point, they normally do very quick. If you're going to do the press conference for the next one squeezed in after another match, it's normally very quick, 2 or 3 questions. Whether it was because Conte was in a good mood, we pretty much did a full normal pre-match press conference in the bowels of the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium after the game. So, match itself. It was a night when cool heads were needed. They were. Like I said, that noise was throbbing. Actually, I kind of did wake up with a headache this morning because last night it was still throbbing. And so the players had to be cool. They had to be calm. They had to be collected. It was a night for that. It was a night that should have happened in January. We know that. It was a night that there was no real reason why it was called off back then. Arsenal with their one COVID case, which Spurs were very, very unhappy with. And just, there is a certain irony to the fact that the man who probably caused them the most problems other than Harry Kane on the day was Son Heung-min, who was not available for that game in January. So there is a huge dose of irony that Arsenal called off a game that they didn't have the players for. They come back and they've got, other than a few defensive issues, they had a pretty strong squad. But it was a player that Spurs didn't have on the day that actually really was involved in every crucial moment of the game. And obviously Kulusevski and Bentancur as well were not available that day. Sonny, he was out with a hamstring injury, wasn't he, in January? That was why he didn't play. And Rob Holding just had a nightmare. Rob Holding will be having nightmares about Sonny for months to come. He will just wake up in a cold sweat, thinking of Sonny and how he was absolutely running him ragged. Don't take any selfies with Rob Holding when he wakes up in a cold sweat. He just couldn't deal with him, and it was almost like he decided from the start, within the opening minutes, do you know what? I'm going to come off second best here. I'm not going to win this in a football battle. I'm just going to have to whack him a few times to let him know I'm here. That old classic kind of old school English football way of doing things. And it absolutely blew back in his face. I mean, he was pushing Sonny, shoving Sonny. He was grabbing in. He was literally Rob Holding. He later became Rob Walking. But it was just... If I was an Arsenal fan, if I was anyone connected with Arsenal, I wouldn't be moaning after that match about various decisions made. I would just be saying to Rob Holding, what did you do? What did you do? We needed everyone on that pitch to be, present and calm and collected, and you did the complete opposite. I think I may have even said in the last video, that was my fear with Christian Romero, who actually didn't end up playing, that he might get carried away with the occasion. And fun enough, it ended up being, someone who knows this derby and really should know better. He was just kind of almost like his head had gone from the start. There was this quite unpleasant moment when Sonny was pushed to the floor, and it looked like Holding just gave him a bit of a kick in the back. I'm sure, maybe he'll say that he was trying to run forward. I don't know what the reasoning could be, but for me, it just looked like a kick in the back, and it wasn't pleasant. I think he got away with that as well. That could have been a yellow card in itself. Obviously, the actual holding... Oh, there was another moment, wasn't there, just before that, when it kind of was pulling Sonny down to the ground, and then we had this weird bit where Sonny was kind of going like this, trying to get him off, which was dodgy in itself, because I think if Sonny had connected with an elbow, even accidentally, that might have led to something else. And then Rob Holding kind of did a weird wrestling move where he threw him over his shoulder. Again, no cards or anything. It was all a bit Fabinho-esque from the Liverpool game. It was all a bit weird. And then maybe the greatest assist of the night was Harry Kane coming in and grabbing Sonny and just stopping Sonny from reacting in any way. And I think that did the trick. You know, Sonny might not have, but I just think having Kane there, and for me, maybe that was the difference between the two teams on the night. Sonny had Kane there. He had his partner in crime. Kane was stood in the way. There was actually one delightful moment when Cedric was trying to moan at Sonny. I cannot remember whether it was after that incident or whether it was the penalty thing. I think it might have been after that incident. And Kane was just doing that, just like swatting him away like a fly, because he's only little Cedric compared to Kane. He just kept pushing him away as if he like weighed about 3 stone. And I think that was the difference between the two teams, that Spurs, that their kind of leaders showed on the day. And we're going to talk about other ones, but in that moment, I think Kane stepped up and he recognised the situation. He was like, they're rattled, but so's Sonny. Let's just calm Sonny for a moment because we need him. And I don't think anyone on the Arsenal team did that with Rob Holding. And I think that was the difference. It was like maybe they're a team lacking in leadership, perhaps. You know, maybe that is something that's been kind of held against them in the past. And nobody went to Rob Holding and just said, what are you doing? You've escaped twice now without getting a yellow card. Don't do this. And I tweeted in Mystic Meg style. I said, keep an eye on that duel because I think something's going to happen there. And lo and behold, it really did. Because obviously we had Rob Holding, him on the... it's such a weirdly appropriate name. Because he was holding, but he also robbed his team of any chance in the game. It's like literally Rob Holding is the perfect name for the man. He was just grappling Sonny away on the touchline, couldn't get anywhere. And even Paul Tierney, wasn't it, the referee, just like, oh, you're going to have a yellow card. This is getting ridiculous. And then he kind of almost left his most violent-looking action for the sending off. Sonny running through, and he just... it's really horrible to actually watch back. It was lucky Sonny didn't, could have been worse. He could have broken his jaw or something. I've seen people trying to defend it as if it maybe even wasn't a yellow card. It's like VAR looked at it as a straight red. That was what they were looking at. There was no question it was a yellow card. And even afterwards, Arteta was talking about possibly appealing it. You can't appeal a yellow card. That's not how it works. But like I say, maybe in a different day, the kick into Sonny's back could have been a red. And like I say, this kind of, it was like a shoulder kind of there. It was right into his face. It was it was so deliberate. But before we'd even had that, we'd had the penalty, which I think it's one of those where if it had happened in the Spurs end, I'm sure Spurs fans would have said it was soft. However, it was a foul. It was a foul. I kind of felt it was softer on first glance, but when I actually watched the replays back, it's quite a clear push and there's no attempt to get the ball by Cedric. It is very much, he's gone with the intention of denying Son the opportunity to jump, and it's a push, and it is. And, I know the Arsenal fans are very wound up about that, but I think it was a penalty. I do, and that's, you know what I'm like. I try and be as objective as possible, and I try to, with my writing, look at it from an outside pair of eyes rather than from either side. And I think by the letter of the law, I think it's a penalty. And like I say, with Rob Holding's 2 yellow cards, though, it's just, it's the old cliche. He was giving the referee the decision to make. You don't need to do that. It was, I know he was struggling with Sonny, but you're kind of almost exposing your own limitations with dealing with it that way. It was not good. It was really not good at all. And it just all changed, didn't it?